Good morning, students. Today I am going to tell you about general anesthetics. I am myself Mr. Salma Kamal, Department of Pharmacology. So, what is the general anesthetics? A little bit introduction about general anesthetic. They are the agent that brings about reversible loss of sensation and consciousness. So, before 1846, alcohol, opium, and packing a limb with ice and con- concussion, that is making the patient unconscious by a blow on a head, were used to relieve surgical pain. So after that, Dr. Horace Wells, a dentist, tried to demonstrate the effect of nitrous oxide as an anesthetic in 1844. Then the discoveries has takes place. Many drugs have come, and now we are dealing with the latest general anesthetic drugs. Okay. So before going to the general anesthetics, you must know what are the stages of anesthesia. When you give the general anesthetic drug, there will be different phases will be there. Okay. So there are stage of analgesia, stage of delirium, stage of surgical anesthesia. Okay. So analgesia, excitement, surgical anesthesia, and medullary paralysis. So these are the depth of anesthesia has been divided into 4 sequential stages. So here we can see stage of analgesia is from beginning of inhalation of anesthetic up to loss of consciousness. So reflexes and respiration are normal. Whereas stage of delirium, the stage is from loss of consciousness to beginning to surgical anesthesia. It may be associated with excitement, shouting, crying, and violent behavior. Then stage of surgical anesthesia, the stage of 4 planes. As anesthesia passes to deeper planes, respiratory depression is seen. There is a gradual loss of reflexes and relaxation of skeletal muscle, and even causes the BP falls and heart rate increases. Then stage of medullary paralysis is seen only with overdose. It is the stage of medullary depression, cessation of breathing, circulatory failure, and death may follow. So these stages are not clearly demarcated in the actual use of anesthesia in the present day because of the concomitant use of other drugs to aid anesthesia. So when you are using any general anesthetic drug, it must follow some ideal properties. So when it is called as ideal anesthetic means an ideal anesthetic should be pleasant, non-irritating, provide adequate analgesia, immobility, muscle relaxation, should be non-inflammable, and administration should be easy and controllable and have a wide margin of safety. Induction and recovery should be smooth and should not affect cardiovascular function. Okay, it should be inexpensive. So what is the mechanism of action of general anesthetic drugs? How does it act? So there is no clear cut uh, mechanism how they are going to act, but most accepted mechanism of actions are as follows. Inhaled and some intravenous general anesthetic bind to specific sites on GABA receptors, and they are going to causes or act through chloride channels and activate these receptors. By this they increase the inhibitory neurotransmission and depress the CNS. Other one is inhalational anesthetic also enhance the sensitivity of glycine glycochloride channels. So they act through glycine channel. So these glycine receptors bring about inhibitory neurotransmission in the brainstem. Some anesthetics like ketamine and nitrous oxide bind to and inhibit the N-methyl D-aspartate or NMDA receptors, whereas inhalational and intravenous anesthetics act at multiple sites in the nervous system and depress the neuronal activity at many sites in the brain. Some general anesthetic may activate the potassium channels in the brain, leading to hyperpolarization of membranes and thereby inhibitory effect. This is in addition to their effect on the GABA receptors. Then coming to the classification, they have been classified into inhalational and intravenous. Inhalational means we give the drugs through the inhalational route of administration. That means they goes into the lungs and then reaches the brain. So the site of action is brain. So here inhalational are again two types, gases and liquids. Gases are nitrous oxide, cyclopropane, newer anesthetics like xenon. Then liquids, ether, halothane, enflurane, isoflurane, methoxyflurane, desflurane, sevoflurane. So if you see the inhalational anesthetic, all these inhalational anesthetics are administered at a specific concentration. Since the brain is highly perfused organ, steady state can be achieved quickly. When the steady state is reached, the partial pressure of the anesthetic in the lung and the brain are equal, and this makes it possible to monitor the anesthetic. Okay, so the factors which influence the partial pressure of the anesthetic attained in the brain are partial pressure of the anesthetic in the inspired gas, then pulmonary ventilation, alveolar exchange, solubility of the anesthetic in the blood, solubility of the anesthetic in tissue, cerebral blood flow. So these are all the factors that influence the action of the inhalational drugs. Okay, so apart from that, some terminologies are there, like minimum alveolar concentration is the lowest concentration of the anesthetic in the alveoli that immobilizes 50% of subjects in response to surgical skin incision. So MAC is used to describe the potencies of different volatile anesthetics. Next terminology regarding this inhalational anesthetics is second gas effect. When certain anesthetics like nitrous oxide are administered in high concentration, the other anesthetic gases are also pulled in and their alveolar tension rises more rapidly. This is known as second gas effect. Okay. Then these are the drugs which are going to cause some advantages as well as disadvantages. So most precisely says that this nitrous oxide, it was one of the oldest drugs which are discovered by the dentist Horace Wells. Okay, so it is a gas with a slightly sweetish odor. It produces light anesthesia without significant depression of respiration or vasomotor center. So advantages are strong analgesic, induction is rapid and smooth, it is non-irritating and non-inflammable. Then disadvantages, it is less potent and should be used with or without other agents. Okay. Then ether is a colorless volatile liquid. It is highly inflammable. Vapors are irritating. The advantages are potent and reliable anesthetic, good analgesic. Whereas disadvantage, it is inflammable, highly soluble in body tissues, causes induction is slow and unpleasant. Whereas the other one, um, enflurane, isoflurane, desflurane, sevoflurane. So all these are the liquid inhalational anesthetics. Enflurane is similar to halothane. So halothane is a liquid general anesthetic, right? It is a prototype one. So this enflurane is metabolized to a lesser extent than halothane, therefore safer regarding the liver toxicity. So see, isoflurane is a isomer of enflurane and similar to halothane. It differs in terms of more potent than halothane, does not sensitize the heart to adrenaline, safer in patients with myocardial ischemia. Whereas desflurane is a congener of isoflurane, it has all the advantages of isoflurane. In addition to desflurane has low solubility in blood and tissues. So the disadvantage is it is pungent in smell, may induce coughing and sometimes laryngospasm. Whereas sevoflurane is the latest introduction to inhalational anesthetic. It has a benefit of desflurane but not pungent. So it is a good bronchodilator. This also makes it suitable for day cases, surgeries, and for anesthesia in children. The disadvantage of sevoflurane is chemically unstable and is degraded by carbon dioxide. Sevoflurane undergoes biotransformation about 3%, can precipitate malignant hyperthermia. The newer anesthetics in this category only xenon. Xenon is a inert gas, has properties very close to a ideal anesthetic. So it is advantageous. Why? Because rapid induction, insoluble in blood and tissues, rapid recovery, potent anesthetic. So not only anesthetic drug, it also causes some sort of analgesic action also. The disadvantage is xenons cannot be manufactured but can only be extracted from air, make it very expensive and largely unaffordable to most patients. So xenon is more expensive when compared with the other one. Coming to the other important element in the general anesthesia, that is oxygen. Oxygen in anesthesia is it should be added routinely to inhalational anesthetics to protect against hypoxia, especially when you are using halothane and nitrous oxide. When oxygen is not available, either ether can be used by because it is safest agent for maintenance of anesthesia. So this is all about inhalational anesthetics. Next one is intravenous anesthetic. They are very important for the examination point of view. So they have been classified into inducing agents like thiopentone sodium, methotrexate, propofol, etomidate, dissociative anesthesia, ketamine, neurolept analgesia, fentanyl and droperidol, then benzodiazepine, diazepam, lorazepam and midazolam. Come to the inhalational anesthetics. So in this we have already discussed the terminology and all. So this is the comparative features of nitrous oxide, ether and halothane. So how they are going to produce analgesia, what is the irritant property, what is analgesic property, how they are going to affect the cardiovascular function and respiration and muscle relaxation, everything here it is given. Intravenous anesthetics. These intravenous anesthetics allow an extremely rapid induction because the blood concentration can be raised rapidly. So these are very important. Okay. So first we will discuss about one by one. In this category, the important drug, that is inducing agent like thiopentone sodium is an ultra short acting barbiturate which when administered IV rapidly induces hypnosis and anesthesia without analgesia. It is highly water soluble. Extravasation of this solution produces intense pain, necrosis and gangrene. So an IV injection 3 to 5 mg per kg as 2.5% solution. Thiopentone sodium produces unconsciousness in 20 to 30 seconds and the duration of action is 4 to 7 minutes. It is highly lipid soluble, rapidly crosses the blood brain barrier and gets rapidly redistributed in the body tissues. So it is the best example for the redistribution phenomenon. So redistribution means first it goes to the fat soluble highly fat soluble areas, then it accumulated there and it again redistributed to the other organs. So thiopentone is metabolized slowly if administered repeatedly may accumulate in the body fat leading to prolongation of its effect. So the drug will stay in the body for a longer period, is stored in the fat. Advantages are quick onset of action, induction is smooth, rapid and pleasant. Whereas disadvantages are not good analgesic nor muscle relaxant. Short period of apnea can occur. Severe hypotension, hiccups may occur. Uses are so where it is used. Thiopentone sodium is used for induction of anesthesia before the administration of inhalational anesthetics. Then propofol. Propofol is an oily liquid with several advantages, making it the most preferred IV anesthetic. Advantages are quick induction and rapid recovery within 4 minutes. It is possible from a single dose, has an anti-emetic property also. It is added advantage. Then disadvantage of propofol causes respiratory depression like thiopental. So it is more preferable for the day case when the patient has to be discharged the same day. Then coming to the dissociative anesthesia, these terminologies are very important. What is inducing agent, what is dissociative anesthesia? Okay, ketamine is the best example to explain the dissociative anesthesia. So this in anesthetic doses, it produces a trance-like state known as dissociative anesthesia. So when it is called as dissociative anesthesia, means characterized by intense analgesia, immobility, amnesia, and a feeling of dissociation from one's own body and surroundings with or without actual loss of consciousness. The mechanism action is ketamine acts by ketamine. Dissociative anesthesia. Ketamine produces dissociative anesthesia. So this is very important to know that what is dissociative anesthesia. It is characterized by intense analgesia, immobility, amnesia, and a feeling of dissociation from one's own body and surroundings with or without actual loss of consciousness. So this it acts by by blocking the NMDA receptors, which are an excitatory amino acid receptor. Then coming to the neurolept analgesia. So neurolept analgesia, you must know what is this neurolept analgesia. It is a combination of neuroleptic drug, that is antipsychotic drug droperidol, with an analgesic drug fentanyl is used. Fentanyl is a short acting 30 to 50 minutes and potent opioid analgesic. Droperidol is a rapidly active potent neuroleptic related to haloperidol. It is employed for endoscopies, burn dressing, angioplasties, and other diagnostic and minor surgical procedures. Then coming to the benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepines like diazepam, lorazepam, and midazolam are used to induce or supplement anesthetic. They cause sedation, amnesia, and reduce anxiety, which are beneficial in such patient. So this is very important. Benzodiazepine may be employed alone in procedures like endoscopies, reduction of fractures, cardiac catheterization, and cardiac So these benzodiazepines may be employed alone in procedures like endoscopies, reduction of fractures, cardiac catheterization, and cardioversion. Next, most important element in this general anesthetic topic, those are pre-anesthetic medication. So what is this pre-anesthetics mean? Prior to anesthesia, certain drugs are administered in order to make anesthesia safer and more pleasant, and is known as pre-anesthetic medication. So some list of drugs are included before prior to the surgeries to decrease the surgical complications. So what are the drugs, why we are using? So they are going to decrease the anxiety, provide amnesia for the pre-operative period, relieve pre-operative pain if present, make anesthesia safer, reduce side effects of anesthetics, reduce gastric acidity. So all these are the things to achieve the above purpose. More than one drug is required, and informative, supportive, pre-operative, so visit by the anesthetologist is very much essential. So what are the drugs we give? Sedative and hypnotics, antihistaminics, antiemetics, anticholinergic drugs, some anti-anxiety drugs. Okay, so all these are the elements which are going to be included. So sedatives like diazepam 5 to 10 mg is given orally. Antihistaminics like they have sedative property, antiemetic property, as well as anticholinergic property. So they are very useful as pre-anesthetic medication. Example, promethazine. Then anti-emetic drugs, metoclopramide, doperidone, or ondansetron may be used. Why? Because they have the anti-emetic property. They decrease. So most of the general anesthesia, they potent an emetic drug, so that can causes the asphyxia and all. Then Anticholinergic drugs. Some irritant anesthetics like ether increases the salivary and respiratory secretion. So these secretion from the oral cavity and trachea may creep into the larynx, induces laryngospasm. So they may enter into the lungs, causes aspiration pneumonia. This indicated the need for drugs that reduce secretion. Okay, then anticholinergic drugs, they reduces the secretion, prevent bradycardia due to vagal stimulation, prevent laryngospasm which is due to excessive secretions. So here we use glycopyrrolate, which is a drug compared to the atropine. Glycopyrrolate is longer acting, is better anti-Silberg and is less likely to cause significant tachycardia, and it is also produces less sedation than scopolamine. So the drugs which reduces the acidity, so surgical uh, if they undergone any surgery or about to get the surgery, they'll be having some stress. This causes stress induced ulcers because of increased anxiety and all. So general anesthetic may induce vomiting. These are associated with an increased risk of aspiration into the respiratory tract because normal protective airway reflexes are blunted by anesthetic. So aspiration of the acidic gastric contents into the lungs causes damage to the lungs. So that we need to use H2 blockers like ranitidine, which decrease gastric acid secretion. Then gastrokinetic drugs, so which increases the gastric motility. Those are metoclopramide, which is a dopamine antagonist that promotes gastrointestinal motility and increases the tone of esophageal end of stomach. So this will causes the speed up the gastric emptying, and combination of H2 blocker and metoclopramide provides a protective action in the aspiration. Then balanced anesthesia. What is this balanced anesthesia means? Since it is not possible to achieve ideal anesthesia with a single drug, multiple drugs are employed to attain this. Pre-anesthetic medication, IV anesthetics for induction, inhalational agents for maintenance, oxygen, skeletal muscle relaxant, and analgesic. This is termed balanced anesthesia. So, altogether, we have discussed general anesthetics in detail, like inhalational anesthetic, then intravenous anesthetic. In that, some special type of anesthesia like induction anesthesia, balance anesthesia, and dissociative anesthesia. Some important point are hypotension occurs during anesthesia. BP should be concurrently monitored. Respiratory depression, anesthetic abolish ventilatory reflex, so ventilation should be assisted. Hypothermia is common due to cool operation theater. Then temperature, cold IV fluid, vasodilatation leading to heat loss, low metabolic activity, laryngospasm, aspiration of gastric contents, and delirium during recovery are the common problems to be avoided in general anesthesia. Post anesthetic nausea and vomiting should be prevented by antiemetics. Pneumonia post operatively rare but should be borne in mind. So, all these are the things you should keep it in mind when you are dealing with the general anesthetic drugs. Hope you understand my lecture. Thank you, students.